CSE English. About me, I'm Sandeep Bhushan. My credentials are I have 8 years of teaching experience for civil services. I teach international relations and internal security and in-depth analysis of the trending editorials and the articles of the newspaper. And this video is in regards to Let's Crack UPSC CSE, that is how to crack prelims and mains 2020 in regards to having the prelims factual and analytical, and also in regards to the mains a descriptive point of view. You can have a better understanding. And then prior to that, you have a notification in regards to Let's Crack UPSC CSE English, which is India's largest learning platform. Once you get subscribed to it, you will have a live and recorded from the India's best educators. And these are all the privileges you have once you get subscribed to Unacademy: daily live classes, live testing quizzes, structured courses, and unlimited access. And these are the top educators of Unacademy, which you can see it on your screen. And in regards to Let's Crack UPSC CS English, the courses are economy, geography, current affairs, and all the others, which you can also see it on your screens. Along with this, you have for the Let's Crack UPSC CS English, you have essay writing, internal security, CSAT papers, and others. You can see it on the news, on the screen. You have in regards to the subscription, you have 12-month subscription and 24-month subscription, wherein 12 months the price is 40,000 and 24 months the price is 48,000. So it's always better to go ahead with the subscription for Let's Crack UPSC CS English for 24 months, wherein the original price is 48, and upon subscription by using my code SBT10, that is Sandeep Bhushan Thummala, you'll get 10% discount, and the discounted price would be 43,200. So it's always recommended to go ahead with subscription for 24 months, because you would be effectively paying the amount only for 13 months, but you will get the subscription for the 24 months. That is 12 months plus 1 month, that is 40,000 plus 8,000, which is the 48,000, but you would get the subscription for 24 months by paying just the amount of 13 months. So please go ahead with subscribing using my code SBT10, and the discounted price will be 43,200. And this is in regards to the analysis of the Hindu editorials and articles which are the trending topic. So before I get into the topic, I would say hi to everyone who have joined. Prayas Joshi, hi to you. So this is in regards to, you have the official who are standing here, the officials, fine, who are having the data, they have the papers here, fine, and then they are the villagers. So they are trying to take the entire information about the villagers. So definitely there is a system in place wherein they are going ahead with how they would go ahead with what is the data, and then in regards to their diseases, and then how many family members are there any kind of diseases prevent now or in the past, and then they would take all the data. So it is the health officials who are going ahead with the entire data processing. So this is in regards to, we are talking about, or we will be discussing in today's article, in regard today's topic in regards to India's disease surveillance system. India's disease surveillance system. So this is what we would be discussing today. So this is article which talks about, and what it says is this needs a reboot. This needs to be rebooted. That means there is a system in place, but there has to be more of enhancements or boosting has to take place for the India's disease surveillance system. So the surveillance system in regards to the disease what India has is not up to the mark, and it has to be rebooted. It has to be more having a vigor, and then it has to be taken into more force. With a more force, it has to be taken into the system itself. And then we will be discussing about the issues of the disease watch, how the issue is in regards to the system. When we are talking about the disease surveillance system, how this system is actually having the watch on the diseases. Please do understand how this is having the watch on the diseases, the disease surveillance system, how it is having the watch or else control on the diseases. And then when we are also looking at it, we'll also look at the epidemics, silent epidemics, which we do not know that they are there, but they still continue in the society or in the system. But many a times the government officials or the people also do not care much about it. So we will look into that kind of what you said. This is what disease India's disease surveillance system has, and then wherein it is need of the hour to have some kind of progress or some kind of events which has to be taken into consideration, that there has to be a rebooting of the system itself, of the surveillance system itself. So when we are looking at the India's disease surveillance system, so we have the data which is in regards to the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, which has come up with the data, or it has come up with the report in regards to the COVID-19 cases in India. So we will look at first initially with the report or the trends or the what it has been given by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare in regards to the COVID-19. So the data which talks about the data from the Ministry of Health and Family Affairs, it shows that 75.3 percentage of the deaths have been concentrated in the age group of 60 years. So we are talking about the death, mortality, and then we would be looking into the age group. So almost 75.3 percentage in the age group of 60 years and above. So that is greater than 60 years. And then when we look at 83 percentage of the deaths are in the above 60 years. So it is in regards to the in the age group of 60 years, it is 75.3 percentage, and Pratham has joined. And hi to you, Pratham. I think you were not there yesterday. Yesterday, were you there? Oh, yesterday there was no class. I'm extremely sorry. I mean, in the morning session you were not there. I think in the morning session, 10 o'clock you were not there. Fine. So, in regards to the greater than 60 years, the death or the mortality rate is 83 percentage. So definitely by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, the data which shows is very concerning. That is in regards to the age group. In regards to age group, so there is a necessity that the surveillance system, the India's surveillance system has to, or disease surveillance system, India's disease surveillance system. Okay, Pratham, we are talking or we were discussing about the topic that is today's article, India's disease surveillance system. India's disease surveillance system, wherein it is in place, but it needs a reboot. But it needs a reboot. So we are looking into that. So definitely, when we are looking at the cases in regards to the above, I mean up to age 60 years and above 60 years, so definitely there is a cause of fear. There is a cause of fear with in regards to the existing illness and medical complication. Please do understand here. Here, the main essence of our discussion is this. You will definitely understand the importance of. You will definitely understand the importance of this article when you can try to understand this point. So for prior to that, I would just take up that the death cases and age. Fine. So death cases 75.3 percentage and age, I mean close to 60 years. Fine. And again 83 percentage which are above 60 years. Fine. And now we will look at the other one. I mean, there is definitely a fear because of look at the age group and then look at the mortality rate. If you look at the age group and the mortality rate, there is a concern, and this concern is really raising an eyebrows. This concern is really raising an eyebrows in regards to the India's disease surveillance system. In regards to India's disease surveillance system. So what is that? There is a concern that there is a fear. There is a fear in regards to the India's disease surveillance system. And then what is that we wanted is that we are having the existing illness and medical complication. I'm talking about the existing and medical complication. See why I'm writing this or why we are linking this, please do understand, because we are We are especially focusing on the report given by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, which talks about 75.3 percentage the death mortality rate around 60 years, and above 60 years it is 83 percentage. So now we are worried about the Indian disease surveillance system. There is a fear. Why? Because of the existing illness and medical combination and complication, and along with this, plus the second one, COVID-19. Please do understand. Please do understand. Along with the existing illness and medical complication, in combination or along with the COVID-19 pandemic disease or this disease. Fine. So that is what we are looking at, the India's disease surveillance system. Pratham says that, sir, but the entire article is wholly critical of India, where several other surveillance models in developed countries have failed. I think so. We should learn from world view. Yes, definitely. See, the way we were talking about Taiwan's coronavirus protocol, definitely we have to. Critical of India where several other surveillance models in developed countries have failed, but definitely they have failed in the developed countries because of few reasons. Because those countries were really focusing at this time. At this time they were focusing on the economy. But previously, prior to COVID-19 pandemic, definitely those countries' health system is very far better than the developing countries, and also India, and also in regards to the kind of hygiene practices the developed countries practice, or they are into the mode of, is far better than the developing countries, and as such even India. And then if you look at the expenditure, the GDP of the contribution to the health is also very comparatively higher in the developed countries comparing to the developing countries, as such even India. So if you look at, yes, there is critical, wholly critical of India, but there is definitely what we have to look at, rather than what you say, the entire, whether the system has failed or the country, the entire article is talking about criticality of India, but we are looking at the India's disease surveillance system. See, this is very important for the mains point of view. Surveillance. What is the surveillance system we have in regards to the controlling or maintaining or making sure that the diseases are not spreading virulent, or you are making the disease or few diseases, or in the forthcoming years the diseases what will prevail should be cut short. So we have various things, but we are not really focusing on those, but we are focusing on only the COVID-19. That is what my concern is. As per the article, we are not really worried about the existing. We are not worried about the existing illness and medical complication. Now the entire world has come up to the fight the COVID-19. But why India? Why India's disease surveillance system is not focusing much? I'm saying not focusing much on the existing illness and medical complication. Because if you look at the few statistics, it shows, for example, TB, which is the cases are more higher compared to the COVID-19 per day. If you look only one disease, so why not we have the, what do you say, a reboot to the India's disease surveillance system. So in that regards, we are discussing Pratham. So hi to you also, Adya. Also hi to you. And we know that disease is lethal. Which one we are talking about? The COVID-19 is lethal, and it is, what do you say, it is uncompromised, or it is for those who are compromised with the immunity. So this definitely, the COVID-19 is for the one who have less immunity system for them. And also it is in regards to the age related, and then it is regard to respiratory infection, or essentially the one who are in regards to the malnutrition will be affected more badly in regards to the COVID-19, or will be infected more easily by the COVID-19. So now in this technical medical terms, this is a situation called as comorbidity. This is very important keyword. Everyone who is watching this, is very important that we have to, you people have to focus on the keyword called as comorbidity when it is in regards to the technical medical terms, it is called as a comorbidity. What is comorbidity? Coexistence of two or more disease processes. So that is what the concern is. That is what we were talking about. I have taken these two, first one and then second one, existing illness and then the COVID-19. So the worry is comorbidity. Yes, silent epidemic concerns. That is what I'm saying. They're silent because probably the system is not following. The India's disease surveillance system is not really looking into it. So the comorbidity is the one which is very very important, and it makes it difficult for COVID-19 or dying with COVID-19. That is, differentiate between dying of COVID-19. Are we dying of COVID-19, or is it that dying with COVID-19? Please to understand. Are we dying of COVID-19, or else are we dying with COVID-19? There is lot of difference. Is it only because of COVID-19, or is it because of we have the existing illness and then low immunity, and then now the infection, SARS-CoV-2 infection, that is why the people are dying? That is very important. In regards to you, when you look at this as mains point of view, we have to differentiate, and it is difficult to differentiate between dying of COVID-19. Is it in the entire country, especially India? Is it that the mortality rate is only because of COVID-19, or dying with COVID-19? Dying of COVID-19 or dying with COVID-19? Because of the various diseases, existing illness and medical complication, we are also dying of COVID-19, not only dying with COVID-19. I think Pratham has understood. So now we will look at what is the issue of disease watch. So when we are comparing it with the Western countries and then comparing the diseases, how they have combated with India, we will look at. So India has a little bit of advantage comparatively, because India has the young population. And is there any role of pharma companies to purposely ignore research in pathogens leading to epidemic? I don't think so. Because the research and development, actually has to be taken by the government of India. But in regards to the annual budget, the government of India to research and development, in the last few years, the budget has been lessened. So definitely we cannot blame the companies. It is the money, the budgeting, annual budgeting has to be by the government of India in regards to the research and development. That is not happening. That is why we cannot blame the companies, to my knowledge. But one thing is, because of the young population, we are a little better, and we are having young population, and that is advantage to India. But it is minus by young population, which is advantage to India, is subtracted or negated or minus by poor health condition. Please do look at each and every point I am writing. We have advantage, but mentioned in article. Okay, that is what I'm saying. That is what I said. It is my view. That is why I said it is my view. It is my view. Pratham, I think you understood. My view is that the budgeting has to be appropriate budgeting, and budgeting is every year it is cut short. To my knowledge, it is cut short to the government of India towards the research and development. And what they say is, government says is, research and development have to make sure that they pull in money for the research and development. That is what is becoming difficult for them. And the young population, which was advantage to India, is negated or minus because of the poor health condition what we have in India. And that is the cause of concern of the issue of disease war. What is the issue? How we are not looking at it? It is because of the poor health conditions what India has. And the other one, it is then imperative that we do not ignore already, is the prevalent diseases in. So the existing diseases and illness. And what is the other one which is also negating? First is the poor health, and the second one is in the regards to the prevailing or prevalent diseases and illness. So existing diseases and illness is also causing a concern, but also causing a concern to the issues in regards to the disease watch in India. And if you look at the recent experience of the public healthcare system, of the public healthcare system, public health care system in India indicates sidestepping of precisely this issue. Are you getting the point now? Public health care system is also, because not only in regards to R&D but also in regards to the public health care system is precisely also sidestepping. That is why we are unable to get more concerned with economic vulnerable groups. Yes, absolutely. And there are many among the poor who are battling these various diseases, and what is important is they have poor people, or as you said, vulnerable economic groups, and they are battling with various diseases because they have very little access to the public health hospital or public health care system in that during the time of national lockdown. So that is a concern. And as we also know that what is happening is that routine functioning of particularly outpatient department OPDs we have in the hospitals, OPD in the public hospitals has been severely affected. Why? Because of national lockdown, and because many of the people, I mean the poor people or vulnerable economic group, are the one who visits the OPDs in the public hospitals, outpatient department, as an outpatient department, and that is been almost closed, or else the services are not being because of the national lockdown. And then we are focusing now only on COVID-19 disease, or the patients infected by COVID-19 disease. That is the cause of concern. And okay, recently the government also has made it very clear that the private hospitals should also consider the regular patients who come to the hospital because of the dialysis, because of the diagnostic test, because of various other ailments. The government has made it very clear that the private hospitals have to accept the regular patients. TB, a poor man's disease, as mentioned in article, we can justify the statements. Yes, definitely I'll justify that statement at the end. And patients are now even high-handedness now complain. So because of the only the now we are just focusing on COVID-19 disease, as the entire public health care system is focusing on only the COVID-19. That is what the patients complain. See, when we are looking at India's disease surveillance system, we need to understand what actually is the part of the disease surveillance system, and who are all the part of that is the patients. Fine. And then when the patients means what type of diseases, existing diseases and the illness, we have to understand it first. Only then we can understand the India's disease surveillance system and the need to reboot it. That is why I am going ahead with the basics of it. What the patients complain now is that high-handedness in the sense, kind of what you said, they have that command by the hospital staff in going ahead with the intensive care unit, in the emergency intensive care unit or labor rooms or TB wards, etc. Because why? This cardiology, neurology department that cater to the elderly sick patients are not now turning away for the critical cases. What are the critical cases? COVID-19. Please do understand it. Because the need of the hour is to handle the patients of COVID-19. So all the hospital staff of all these wards or all these departments or units are being streamlined to look into the critical cases, that is COVID-19. That is what the patients complain. And this is also to be looked into the disease surveillance system. That means when this is a disease, there are few other diseases also we will look into. So the government of India or the Ministry of Health and Welfare has to focus on the disease surveillance system, looking into the pandemic also, and the existing diseases. Please do understand my concern here. COVID pandemic is very important, need of the hour, but the existing diseases also should be taken into consideration. And if that, I mean, this last section of people, if they are, what do you say, affected, or they are not taken into consideration because of the poor health conditions, so they will have limited access to the healthcare services, and that will create again more number of mortality rate, not just because of the COVID-19, but because of the existing diseases. That is what the comorbidity means. That is what this one comorbidity means. A coexistence of two or more diseases. That is what the concern is now. Is it that we are dying of COVID-19 or dying with COVID-19? And many of the, we have seen that you have that in the medical conditions, I mean, because of this, you have a careless disease surveillance system. Because we need not really blame the public healthcare system. We are not blaming the public healthcare system, but the public healthcare system, the kind of support it is getting in regards to the financial is a matter. Financial support is a matter. Financial support is a matter for the kind of, what do you say, careless disease surveillance system. Lax, it is a lax in the sense careless. So it is a careless India's disease surveillance system as of now. So we will look at the failure of disease surveillance, what requires an explanation. So we will look at the failures. So first one is that you do not have access to the healthcare facilities. That is the first one. So no access to the healthcare facilities. That is the first one. Because you do not have the access to the healthcare facility system, thereby what is happening is you are unable to report, or you're failing to report the condition of certified medical practitioners. And not only that, we also do not have the certified medical practitioners. This is the first one. And second one is in regards to the, even when an infected person has access to such facilities, clinical case do not culminate in the required testing. That means when the person is having healthcare facilities, what is important is testing is important, but the testing is not happening. Testing, when we say, when a person is having any disease, definitely they have to be testing for blood, serum, throat swab, or sputum, or stool, or urine. So these kind of testings are not abundant, or they are very minimal in regards to, once the access to healthcare facility is also taken into consideration, or they are having access, infected person have access to the healthcare facility, but the point is, what about the testing? And the third one is, and there is a widespread practice among pathological laboratories. Okay, Pratham says yes sir, but the mortality rate this period of year has dropped down by 21% due to lockdown. Definitely, Pratham, no doubt about it. And the main reason of national lockdown is only to make sure that the mortality rate is decreased. The mortality rate is decreased. But we are not concerned about only mortality rate, but our concern is also the concept of comorbidity. Please do understand. Not only mortality rate, it is plus comorbidity. It is not mortality, it is comorbidity, means infection, along with COVID-19 plus existing diseases. That is what the concern is. And if you look at that, what will happen is, there has to be, what you say, the surveillance system has to be protecting even the existing diseases. Then what you said, the mortality rate will still further tip down, will fall down. Yes. And there is a widespread practice among pathological laboratories to categorize diseases based on the pre-existing classificatory system. So this, which is actually a failure to identify the definitive cause for a illness by differentiating separate pathogens, because when we are going ahead with the laboratories, I mean the widespread practice among the laboratories, they go ahead on the basis of pre-existing classificatory system. Pre-existing classificatory system. The laboratories, they go ahead with the pre-existing laboratory system. This is again a failure. This is a third failure. What? The laboratories go ahead based on the pre-existing classificatory system, which is a failure to identify a definitive cause, a exact cause for an illness, because the pathogens what we are talking about, or what you also said, is that if we are talking about SARS-CoV-2, if we are looking at, I mean this is the first time, but I'm just saying, if not SARS-CoV-2, also various viruses, they are mutating. Because they are mutating, we cannot, what you say, depend on pre-existing classificatory system by the pathological laboratory. So what are the failures is 1, 2, 3, we have looked at it. And we will look at the silent epidemics. So definitely it is not only the COVID-19. Yes, COVID-19 is definitely the one which is shaken the entire world itself, but along with the COVID-19, which is now, what you say, spreading virulent, and many of the mortality rates across the world is only because of the COVID-19. But there are also silent epidemics which are existing, but we are not really focusing on it. I mean, not only the government, even the individuals, the citizens or the patients are also not focusing. I'm not just blaming the government or the Ministry of Health and Welfare. No, it is the individuals also. We are now, everyone is worried about COVID-19, but individuals, I'm saying, individuals are also not, or else the citizens are not worried about the this silent, or not, they both are not worried about the not worried about the silent epidemics. That is what you have, what you say, discussions many a times in various, what you say, channels also, that we are really having a fear of COVID-19, but we do not look at what are the other diseases which are actually killing the humankind, wherein mortality rate is also higher. That is in regards to respiratory tract infection, RTI, and then in regards to the urinary tract infection, and then acute febrile illness, and then acute undifferentiated fever or fever of unknown origin. So definitely you have these ailments which are really causing a lot in regards to the mortality, but we are not worried about it. And these are all silent epidemics, wherein individuals or as a responsible citizen, we are also not worried about it, because we think that it will not, what do you say, an individual think that it will not affect them, or they do not know when they will affect, or they might be that they are having a kind of confidence because they have vaccine for this. But once any illness or disease attacks, then you are bound to be affected by that virus or disease, and this affects lakhs of people. This silent epidemics affect lakhs of people every year worldwide, and this is the poor who are the victims of, who are having low immunity and who have limited access to the public healthcare system, and that is what it is. And in regards to statistics, the RTI, that is respiratory tract infection, kills over 900 people only in India every day. That is what the concern is. We are not really worried about the respiratory tract, the TB, or otherwise the acute lower respiratory tract infection, ALRTI. This is also, we are not really worried about it, and this affects mostly the children who are below the age group of 5 years, and this almost have approximately infected 3.4 crore people every year worldwide, but there is nothing we really focus on it. I mean, we in the sense, individuals do not focus, but we are focusing on only COVID-19, because we feel this, all these are not really making any kind of threat to our life. And in recent years, we have seen 66,000 to 1,99,000 deaths also, and out of this 99% of these deaths are in the developing countries. Please do understand. That is why our focus in regards to the India's disease surveillance system has to be rebooted is the cause of concern what we have looked at, and definitely it is a cause of concern, and definitely it is a cause of concern for India. We are not taking it very seriously, neither the government, neither the individuals. We are not just blaming the government. Even it is a responsibility of the individuals or the citizens to be to get educated and then be part of the hygienic practices, how we can overcome these silent epidemics. Because the US President Donald Trump has said, many of them have looked at him and then looked at this statement and then they have laughed at him, saying that when Trump has said that why to worry about COVID-19. Okay, he has underestimated COVID-19, no doubt about it. But he also mentioned saying that COVID-19 is not the one which is what is the first, I mean, which will only take away the lives of the individual. He said in US there would be lakhs of people who will be infected by the common flu, influenza, and there would be lakhs of what do you say Americans who will be dying. And do we need to worry about COVID-19? He made this statement. That is what, see, we will look, we will pick up that phrase or the statement only because not that he is right. We'll pick up that only because that along with the COVID-19 what is said is there are existing diseases, and every year he said in regards to the influenza or flu there would be lakhs of Americans who will be what do you say dying, mortality rate. Are we really, do we need to really worry about COVID-19? He said. Okay, the other point is yes, COVID-19 is very lethal, very lethal. We cannot underestimate. But what the point I would wish to mention is there are existing diseases also. Okay, not concerned with economic the poor. Okay, Pratham says, but the mortality rate. Okay, fine. Okay, and the others also in regards to Adya, Shreya Joshi. Please go ahead with any queries, anything which you have to be again to be discussed. Please put forward your points also. And even if the definitive cause of the illness is identified, for example, if there is an cause for any illness is identified, but it is not having any kind of scientific research, I mean attention is not being taken to the scientific research. Pratham, I think now you are understanding this point. Pratham, the government, when we are talking about research and development, definitely there has to be what do you say, when the cause is identified for any disease or illness, it is the government has to what do you say focus, give more attention on the scientific research. That is what I was talking about. Can't there be a holistic and a comprehensive approach to fight such pathogens collectively rather than selective approach? Yes, that is what probably now the COVID-19 is a blessing in disguise, wherein it will also make sure that, or it will caution the government of India that how important is to consider the health system and the research and development. It will caution the government of India about the health system in India. That is how much percentage of the GDP has to be to the, to be part of the health system, and then how much we have to go ahead with supporting for the research and development. That is very important. Because why we want this scientific research is, as the viruses or the diseases are going up, or they are evolving, not growing, evolving. So when they are evolving, what is the point I need to mention is that they have the subgroups, they have the strains in genotype of pathogens which concern fail to be consistently tracked. That is important. Through the scientific research, what we can come up is, through the research and development, is we can track the strain in the sense the feature of the, or else we can track the evolving virus or evolving strain of the virus. So when we can identify the strain in the sense the feature, because many a times we have seen the virus or the SARS-CoV-2 virus is mutating, that is changing. So when it is changing is genome sequencing, or the sequencing of the genome is changing. When it is changing, what is important is scientific research is important, so that we can consistently track. This is a very better keyword I can use it. Ram Kumar, after long time, Ram Kumar, you have been probably, yeah, yesterday there was no class. Hi to you, Ram Kumar, hi to you. And then this is very important. The scientific research which will give consistently, we can track the subgroups strains. This is very important. We can track the subgroups. Yes, RBT, but that is not happening. How will that do? See, ICMR is going it with that. Now ICMR is going at only because of the, what do you say, now we are going ahead with the focusing on the COVID-19. But why not generally also? Why not generally also is a question mark. That is what we are worried about, the India's disease surveillance system wherein it lacks the scientific research. When you have the scientific research, we can identify the subgroups, strains in the genotype of the pathogens, and we can also make sure that we are consistently tracking the virus. That is very important. And when we are consistently tracking the virus or the disease or the illness, we can come up with the vaccines or the drugs very fast. That is what, because the virus is mutating, we are unable to go ahead with sequencing. That is why we have the vaccine. It will take 1-2 years minimum, they were talking about the WHO. But all the countries together are coming together, probably they might come up with 6 to 10 months itself. So knowledge of pathogen is very important. And what we have, this selective biased approach of mainstream scientific research. So this is what it is: selective biased approach of mainstream scientific research. This we have to come out of it. Indians, or India itself, not Indians, India has to come out of this selective or biased approach of mainstream scientific research, and this is just driven by profits of private pharmaceutical companies. That is what you were talking about, Pratham. That is driven by the profits of private pharmaceutical companies, and is the fallout of the lack of priority that governments, please do understand this, and this is the fallout of the, why it has happened is because of the lack of priority that the government assigned to general health care and diseases of the poor. I think, Pratham, now you are getting the point exactly. You said, is there any role of the pharma companies to purposely ignore research in pathogens leading to epidemic? When the priority of the government is not assigned to the general health and the disease of the poor, then definitely the private companies will come into existence for the profits. And then who has to, what do you say, handle that? It is the government. It is the government who has to take into control that the private companies or the private pharmaceutical companies should not have the major say. That is why I was talking about the research and development, wherein the annual budgeting by the government of India has to be, when this is more, then you will not have the private pharmaceutical companies. You will have the government pharmaceutical companies in the research and development, wherein they will also, by this the government will focus on the general health care and then the disease of the poor and vulnerable economic groups. I think you have understood. Yes, very good. And then it is very important, whenever there is, what you say, identity of the disease, contagious disease, and its treatments are well known, So they have to go ahead with necessary reaction. So once they come up with the identity of the disease and the treatment is well known, they have to go ahead with the necessary reaction. So when we are talking about the necessary reaction, this is a keyword here. So he is talking about the example here when we are talking about when you know the identity of the contagious disease. So the contagious disease here in this case, it is a TB. Definitely it is contagious. And when you know the identity of the contagious disease and you also know the treatment of the disease, then the necessary action has to be taken for the contagious disease, that is the TB. Fine. And according to the public health experts, one person every 10 seconds contracts TB. This is very, very important. Look at it. The data which is given. State should include health as an essential commodity. Yes, yes, yes. That is why, what do you say, the medicines or medical equipments, medicines or medical equipments are part of essential commodities. That is why medicines or medical equipments are part of essential commodity. When we are talking about N95 or even in regards to the PPE or ventilators, are all essential commodities. And 1400 people in India die every day because of the TB. So that is what is important, how TB is really causing a concern. That is, the TB is the existing disease, is the existing disease, which we are not really focusing on that, which we are not focusing on that. And the TB has a RO value, that is basic reproduction number and fatality rate. Again, see, these points are important for prelims because he might frame a question on the backdrop of COVID-19, which is a respiratory disease, but he might not focus on COVID-19, but there could be a possibility he would focus on the TB, and then he would give one of the what is a statement saying that which among the statement, and one of the statement could be according to the public experts, one person every 10 seconds contracts TB and up to 1400 people in India die every day because of the TB disease. So state should rather control, not include. Again, again, what will happen is, Pratham, the role of the state again. The various problem for the state itself, the role of the state, or else the role of the state in regards to having or kind of having the domination power, imposing power. And if we look at some diseases are quickly identified as epidemics of greater public concern. We have also looked at it is important to know that TB and other contagious disease are ignored as ordinary. That is what is important. We generally in India or everyone, they are not really focusing on TB. They do not focus on even in regards to the diabetic, but they are more worried about HIV, for example. But you do not know more of Indians die because of TB and diabetes, and that is what we have to start learning, that not only the government should focus on India's disease surveillance system, but individuals also should start focusing on which disease will be a lethal one, not only COVID-19 but already existing one. We should also not take it as an ordinary, or we should not have a low attention towards that diseases, is the need of the hour for the everyone, not only for the government. I'm saying it very clear, it is a responsibility of the each and every citizen. It is a responsibility of the each and every citizen. Okay, Janavi Saloni says government comes into action after a sizable population gets infected. Okay, especially when pathogens threaten lives and such rich state of society. Yes, even I'll mention that also. That is what I was talking about, research and development. Why the government has to focus on research and development is when that is taken into consideration, because when the research and development, that is in regards to the when there is proper mechanism in place, they are identifying the subgroups and then the strains of the virus, they are actually protecting the poor and the vulnerable section of the country. Very well said, Janavi. Pratham Chavan says contracting to Adam Smith model of a free market. States should aggressively go for imperialistic approach in public health. Okay, probably you never know, because of the COVID-19, we would also experience a kind of new kind of system, or else imperialistic form of government, or any kind of, you never know. Very good, Pratham. And then what corrective measures we have to focus at? There are definitely the we have looked at the silent epidemics. We have looked at the failures of the disease surveillance system. We have looked at the silent epidemics, and then now we will look at the corrective measures. Diseases are being selectively discovered. This is the, what do you say, cause of concern, and this is a keyword, as Jannavi was talking about. Government comes into action only after sizable population gets infected, especially when pathogens threaten lives of rich strata of people. That is what it is. Yes, new world order. Yes, absolutely, absolutely, Pratham. So what is important is the diseases are being selectively discovered, and this should not happen. Should not happen, I'm saying, as Janavi was talking about, and this should not happen. They should not be selectively discovered. And diseases have the propensity to identify as an epidemic when they have a signaling effect for the scientific community. Please do understand. When they are saying selectively discovered, so they are, what do you say, identified as epidemic. So diseases are, I'm just going at the flowchart. Diseases are being identified, or they are selectively discovered, and then they are identified as an epidemic only when there is an effect, only when there is an effect on whom? On the scientific community. Or else when there is on the well-to-do section, or a rich people, as Janavi is talking about, plus rich strata or rich people. Only when it affects the rich people and the scientific community, only then you are going ahead with the, or identifying them as the disease as an epidemic, and then you are selectively discovering and then going ahead with the making sure that how it will be, the disease, I mean sequencing and all that comes into action. Only when there is a threat of transmission to the well-to-do sections or wealthier regions, if not people or rich countries, that the disease actually has a signaling effect. That is the cause of concern. A WHO role in combating such research concern. Yes, yes, definitely, everyone. But we have seen that even WHO is in under the, what do you say, is extending its arms for the funds to US. How can WHO also focus that? Yes, but definitely WHO has to take that initiative, and it is a responsibility of it. And what is very important is pre-existing disease. I was talking about the existing diseases have the potential to combine with COVID-19. That is what the entire nutshell is. That is what the entire nutshell is. I didn't understand, Pratham, your question mark. What happens is the existing diseases have the combination to the, or they combined with the or else they have combined with the COVID-19, and that is why mortality rate is also high in the, as per the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, high in regards to 73.5% in regards to the one who is close to 60 years, and then 83% in regards to the above 60 years. And now it becomes imperative to identify the comparative fatality rates of many of these silent epidemics. Now you are getting, so we have to look at the mortality rate of the existing or silent epidemics, which in their own right require urgent attention, and also the COVID-19. So as we are focusing on the COVID-19, the same way the government of India has to focus on the silent epidemics, especially on the mortality rate, and then focusing on the India's disease surveillance system. I think now you have understood, everyone. And the conclusion is that what Pratham was talking about, that I'm concluding it. Pratham was talking about TB. What was Pratham saying it? Ramkumar, are you there? Adya, are you there? Please do, what do you say, go ahead with your points also. Ramkumar, Adya. Pratham Chavan, at 11:38, you have said TB, a poor man's disease, as mentioned in the article. Can we justify such statements? You have asked. So definitely that have put it in uh, conclusion. And Satya have joined. First, I would say a hi to you, Satya. Just the concluding the topic, trending topic, that is in regards to India's disease surveillance system. Government is mostly concerning the diseases which affect the richer section of the society the most. Yes, yes, absolutely. That is what we have discussed. That is what we have discussed, Satya. And it is not a coincidence that a relatively downplayed diseases like TB is largely a poor man's disease. Definitely, TB is a largely poor man disease, and then the silent epidemic is the TB, and TB is the poor man's disease. So, what is important when we are talking about India's disease surveillance system? We have to focus on the silent epidemics. That is what the entire nutshell is. And what we are saying is there is a need to reboot the existing India's disease surveillance system, especially again focusing in the silent epidemics, because TB is part of the, or TB is definitely a silent epidemics, part of, or one of the silent epidemics, along with, we have seen, for the benefit of others, I will also go in once again, respiratory tract infection, RTI, urinary tract infection, UTI, and then acute febrile illness, AFI, acute undifferentiated fever or fever of unknown origin. So RTI, UTI, AFI, FUO are also the silent epidemic, not only TB, but they are also. So RTI, FTI or UTI, and then you have uh, the fever, disease, fine. So all this, but along, I mean, comparing with the other silent epidemics, you have the TB, which is the poor man's disease, and that is very important. And clearly, we are confronted with the skewed relationship between our ways. Please do understand this, Pratham. Our ways of knowing, that is social epistemology and epidemiology. So what we have to focus is that we need to know the what is happening in regards to the epidemiology, and then in regards to knowing about the social epistemology. So that is important. So when we try to focus on this, then we can have that not only the rich countries or the well-to-do people will be protected. No, it is the poor man's, or else the silent epidemics also should be taken into consideration, wherein in regards to respiratory tract infections, urinary tract infection, acute febrile illness, acute undifferentiated fever or fever of unknown origin. Also, along with that, you have the acute lower respiratory tract infection, ALRTI. So all these ALRTI, all these silent epidemics. So what is that we are focused is that this is the way, or this is the need of the hour for the government of India to make sure that there is the necessity or the need of the hour is to go ahead with to reboot the India's disease surveillance system. See, we are not saying that We should not focus on only COVID-19. No, at this moment, COVID-19 to focus is very important. But what the article says is that silent epidemics, and this silent epidemics is very important for mains and also prelims point of view. For mains, so you can get a question in the prelims saying that which among the following are not part of the silent epidemic diseases or silent epidemic or pandemic or epidemic diseases. So you have that respiratory tract infection, urinary tract infection, and then AL, RTI, TB, all that. So definitely you have a thorough understanding now in regards to the existing diseases, and then in regards to the silent epidemic diseases and how the COVID-19 pandemic situation, and then the TB, a poor man's disease, and then we are confronted by a skewed relationship between our ways of knowing social epistemology and epidemiology. This is very, very important. So the way we have looked at this article from various aspects, from the age point of view, and then again making sure that what are the reasons of negative, even though we have a very young population, but how it is impacting the cases are high, we have looked at. So India's disease surveillance system need, so this is what surveillance system, so they have to focus in regards to all the existing silent epidemic diseases, focus it with or combine it with the COVID-19, combine it with the COVID-19, then we can make sure that we handle the mortality rate of the infected cases of COVID-19, because the already existing diseases or the silent epidemics are the one who are having low immunity, please do understand, or the one who have the low immunity system. So they have to be focused first. If the immunity is being taken into consideration, or they increase the immunity of this one who has been infected by the silent epidemics by the India's disease surveillance system, so definitely when the immunity is increased, so they will have more of what you say resistance power to the pandemic situations. For example, COVID-19. I think you are getting the point now. Getting the point now very well, and that is what is important. And that is what is important. And the one what we have also learned today is comorbidity. Comorbidity. That means one, or we are having one plus another, or one or two diseases together is going on, and that is what we were talking about. Comorbidity, coexistence of two or more disease processes, and this is the important keyword what we have learnt today for the prelims, and also while you are writing in the mains you can use that comorbidity, and then one or two lines you can also add it in your answer, which will be an impressive and an original answer. I'm saying impressive and an original answer. I think everyone is getting it. Impressive and original answer, wherein because of the comorbidity, which in ways makes it difficult to differentiate between dying of COVID-19 or dying with COVID-19. Very, very important. I think this has been a very effective, informative, knowledgeable session, both for factual, analytical, for prelims and for mains point of view, for each and everyone. And I proudly say this, the others may not be, I'm not saying others are not, I'm saying others may not be in a position to handle the keywords or identify the keywords what I have discussed in the class, and you are benefited by this, and you are benefited by this lecture thoroughly. And then I would conclude this by saying, like the video, subscribe the video, share the video, hit the bell button while you're watching the YouTube video, that is Let's Crack UPSC CSE English, and then go ahead with subscription, that is SBT10, that is Sandeep Bhushan Thummala, using my code SBT10, and then you will get 10% discount on the 24-month subscription. Go ahead with subscribing for 24-month subscription, because as I repeatedly say that you are benefited, because you are effectively paying the amount for 13 months, but you are getting 24 months subscription. So do take the benefit of the Unacademy what is providing to the civil servant aspirant. And if you haven't downloaded the Unacademy app, please go ahead with downloading the Unacademy app, and you can be part of the Unacademy special classes. As I said earlier also, UNSC, United Nations Security Council, Unacademy special classes. There is a link, definitely Unacademy special classes. Once you join, you can also be, as Pratham was saying, that it is just a sense of humor, as Pratham was saying, IFS. So you can be again getting, or you're getting close to United Nations Security Council as an IFS officer. So go ahead, and then do not forget to use my code while you are subscribing for Let's Crack UPSC CSE English Unacademy. So you do use my code SBT10 Sandeep Bhushan Thummala. And then I would go ahead with thanking you all. I would say thank you all. Thank you all. Pratham, Satya, Janavi, Ramkumar, Adya, everyone, Shreyas, and the one who are all watching also, who are not live but watching also. Thank you all, and then you can be definitely benefited by my lectures. And then tomorrow also you have 10 o'clock in regards to newspaper analysis, and then 11 o'clock you have the trending topic. Thank you, Pratham. Thank you, Janavi. Thank you, Satya. Thank you very much. And then I would wind up now. And then do not forget, while you are subscribing, please do go ahead with using my code SBT10 Sandeep Bhushan Thummala.